And for this, we're going stateside, virtually, obviously. And I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Jerry J. Barron, who's the Executive Director of the IRR4 project, which is a cooperative program in the States of the State Agricultural Experimental Stations, USDA, the Growers Commodity and Organizations, the crop protection industry, and the US Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA. IRR4 project conducts research at 21 field research farms and 5 analytical laboratories, basically to facilitate the registration of both conventional chemical pesticides and biopesticides on specialty crops and for specialty uses. By training, Jerry is a weed scientist and was president of the Northeastern Weed Science Society and was elected a fellow of that organization in 2015. He serves on the editorial board of Outlooks of Pest Management and on the board of directors of the IPM Voice. Just as a little aside, Jerry is a competitive runner and certified running coach. Jerry has a bucket list, a quest to run a full marathon in each of the 50 US states. As of September of 2019, he had finished an impressive 41 states. But however, since then, COVID has put paid to further ticks on that list. So we hope everything gets back to normal at some stage, Jerry, and that you manage to complete your bucket list. So with no further ado, it's over to you, Jerry, for your talk on biopesticides and integrated solutions.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Neil, for that introduction, and welcome from the other side of the sea. Glad to be able to join everyone today and talk a little bit about IRR4, what we have done with biopesticides in the past, and what we're doing going forth. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to make some of the early morning sessions because of the time differential. But I've just been able to listen to the presentations after the noon lunch break, and I'm very impressed with the activities going on with robotics, and thanks, Simon, for sharing that good word on that one, as well as some new regulatory schemes to bring new technologies to the forefront. So let me proceed here, and okay, so just as a little history, I'm certain that there's at least one person in the crowd that has not heard about the IRR4 program, but we've been in the United States since 1963, and we were established to provide a solution to the minor use problem in the United States. And this is our old logo on the bottom of the screen, and what's nice about showing that old logo is it truly represents some of the many partners in the government and the private sector, as well as the stakeholders that either contribute or benefit from the IRR4 project. So what is the minor use pesticide problem? The minor use pesticide problem is pretty simple. The cost of data development for a new conventional chemical pesticide or biopesticide in a small acreage crop, such as many of our fruits and vegetables, nuts, herbs, and ornamentals, the cost of development does not exceed the cost of development does exceed the potential return on sales for a company that is involved in development and registration of these products. They oftentimes choose not to proceed in these particular markets because of the limited return on investment, and these crops tend to turn out to be orphan crops. The IRR4 program was started to provide some government intervention and to make sure that farmers and growers of these crops have the tools necessary to grow their produce. And this is just a very quick photo essay of some of the problems that these growers face. These pests are indiscriminate. They really don't care if the crop is classified as a horticulture or specialty, or it's a major row crop. They're going to go after it no matter what. And these are the challenges that our farmers face in growing our food. So the IRR4 mission is to facilitate the regulatory approval of the sustainable pest management technologies for specialty crops and special uses to promote public well-being. And there's, many, many buzzwords in there. Sustainable pest management. Well, sustainable is a very big word right now, and you have everyone having a different assessment of sustainable. What does it mean? Well, in this context is we want to make sure that if we provide a farmer the product to use these crop protection products, that they can go out there and use it, and they can go out there and end up selling their crop in the markets. And I'll get into some details about this, but we want to make sure that, this having a pesticide approved for a particular crop does not handcuff the growers and make sure that they have the ability to use these. And then when you start talking about specialty crops and specialty uses, promote public well-being. The fruits and vegetables are the crops that the health experts keep telling us over and over again. We need to be eating more and more of fruits and vegetables. I imagine that there's many of us, including myself, that could sure use opportunities to eat more of these healthy foods. A little sidebar, a couple of years back, a study was done that if the American public followed the recommendations of eating fruits and vegetables, there was no way possible that the American farmers could provide enough of these fruits and vegetables to feed the public. It's because that so many people don't follow these guidelines. IRR4, we look at ourselves as being technology neutral. Our role is to give the farmers the tools and let them make decisions what products they want to use. That means is if a farmer wants to convert their land and their commercial production practices to organic, we want to make sure they have the tools to grow these crops organically. If they want to work in the conventional areas, we want to make sure they have the tools. If they want to use biotechnology or other new areas, we want to make sure they have it. So we don't judge on what they're using. We just want to make sure that they have the tools available to allow them to make the choice. So my main point of this discussion is to talk a little bit about what we have done in the past with biopesticides, what we have done in the past for organics agriculture. There's a whole part of IRR4 that I'm not talking about. I'm not going to talk extensively about our conventional program where we have developed residue data to support over 20,000 registrations. I'm going to be talking specifically about the biopesticide area. Be happy sometime in the future to talk a little bit more about the conventional program. But let's just focus on the biopesticide. So in the biopesticide area, we have two very distinct roles. We provide regulatory support for technologies that are developed in the public sector, and we develop product performance data. Let me go back to regulatory support. So oftentimes the scientist at the Department of Agriculture or scientists at the universities throughout the United States may be out there and looking to develop a new biopesticide or a new technology that could potentially provide some new ways of managing a pest. Oftentimes, there's not a lot of money out there to provide the expertise to get this product through the regulatory scheme that's required by the Environmental Protection Agency. In this case there, we serve as an intermediate. We will come in there and utilizing not only our knowledges of the regulations, but our close cooperation with the Environmental Protection Agency, we will develop what we believe is the necessary studies that needs to be performed, because in the biopesticide area, it's typically not one size fits all, but you want to be able to adjust the data developed and the data that is submitted based on the technologies there. So if it's something is a little bit different, you want to make sure that you're developing the data in an appropriate format, so that way the EPA can make their appropriate decision. We'll go in there, we'll help develop the regulatory plan. We'll serve as a regulatory consultant to these public sector scientists to get their products through. Oftentimes, once these products are through the regulatory system, the public sector entity will develop an agreement with a commercial entity, and then that commercial entity will then make it available for the general public or the farmers to use. But we just make that value added, so there's a registration behind this one. We also develop a significant amount of product performance data for biopesticides. We want to be able to go out there and show that when these products are used appropriately in the manner that is consistent with the management of the pest and consistent with the environmental conditions, they can be a very effective tool. Oftentimes, unfortunately, it's probably happening to a lesser extent now than it did several years ago, but there were a lot of startup companies out there, and they were trying to make their investors very happy, and they were making all types of promises that could not be kept. And oftentimes farmers may have been burned and not being able to get effective control because of not having the appropriate testing. We're out there trying to fill that gap, making sure that if a product is supposed to be controlling a particular pest on a specific crop, it truly does provide that type of work. We do have some efforts in the organic market. So we'll be using biopesticides that have been approved for use, and we'll be out there and trying to make those fit into their particular role. And then IRR4 also provides some direct support for biotechnology, including plant-incorporated protectants. So there's, as the two previous speakers had mentioned, there's a lot of new technologies out there, and a lot of these are very unique. So we're trying to come in there and develop what is necessary, so that way these products can get to market and be used by growers. Actually, the biopesticide area, IRR4 first started it in 1982. So we've actually been in this area for quite a while. We changed the name into biopesticides in 2008. I guess one notable accomplishment for IRR4, that even prior to its establishment of the Biorational program in 1982, in the United States, we were involved in getting the sprayable Bacillus thuringiensis approved for use on all crops, and that was a major, accomplishment for this program at that time, of getting this, major biopesticide approved and be allowed to use on many different crops. As we go in there and just again on a historical basis, the biopesticide, the first one was, or version 1.0, we provided regulatory support and research grants. Version 2.0, we added organics, and we added a demonstration program where we went out there and put out some large scale research demonstration plots that growers could see and look at and actually say, hey, this stuff really does work. And then right now we've moved into version 3.0, and we've established what we're calling our integrated solutions and responding directly to priorities from the growers. Before I get into speaking a little bit more about the integrated solutions and the new thing that we're doing, these are just some other Milestone or signature successes the program has had over the years. Codling moth granulosis virus. This was something that we took directly from a public source, and we developed the data. We paid for the data development. We got this registered. It was and still is used out in California on a lot of the palm fruit to control codling moth codling moth in this particular manner. And I don't believe it's the same, but it once was actually registered by the state of California as a registrant. We've been able to spend a lot of time and effort to get agriphages approved for bacteria control, including canker and greenhouse tomato. Numerous biopesticides for the management of varroa and tracheomites in honeybees, as well as in the areas where honeybees tend to live, such as the hives. There's a product out there now called Regalia. I don't know if it is registered in the European Union, but in this case there, we work directly with the initial discovery group to get the approval of an extract of giant knotweed to manage fungal diseases, specifically powdery mildew on many crops. AF36, an aflatoxin, competitive inhibition technologies on many crops. AF36 was one technology that was developed in the public sector for peanuts and walnuts and corn and cotton. Has since been modified, and we're working actually in the African Union to take some of this technologies and get different strains working over in the African Union. We've supported the honey sweet varieties of stone fruit that have been modified to resist plum pox. And then probably one of the most recent but most impactful approvals that we were able to accomplish was to get an all crops tolerance for the insecticide spinosad. This has since been registered in the United States on two different formulations, one for the organic market and one for the non-organic market. So this is been a significant new tool for the organic growers to manage pests. So actually, this is a good segue in there. So in maybe the mid 2015, 2015, 16 or so, when spotted wing Drosophila was really becoming a massive problem in soft fruit. The organic growers really didn't have anything to really come up and manage their pest. So we went out there and we did a multiple location, multiple year study where we used the Entrust, the organic formulation of spinosad, alone and rotation with another biopesticide. In this case, it's called Grandivo, a Corynebacterium. And this provided the best overall control in the organic production. So we were able to not only give the organic growers a very useful tool, but having multiple types of products in there was able to support some possibility of resistance management. So you weren't burning these products out very quickly. Then all of a sudden we started seeing some pretty significant changes in the biopesticide world. There were all of a sudden many new effective products coming out with registrations. We were seeing a fundamental change of the involvement of industry. You no longer were having some small startup companies with venture capital behind them. You were starting to see the major agriculture chemical company, the Bayers, the BASFs, the Syngentas, the Cortevas coming out there and starting to explore activities in the biopesticide areas. You started to have some products that had some good fit in conventionals. At the same time, you were starting to see the consumers coming back there and saying, we want something different. We care about what's in our food. We want to be able to push it farther. So at that point, we started seeing that there's with these changes going on. It led us to start thinking well, what else is going on? Well, we were finding out that we were probably at the most opportune time. There were plenty of registrations of conventional products out there, but because of many factors, including export issues, including efficacy data needs, pest resistance, government use restrictions, and public access, that things were changing. You just no longer could go out there and say okay, we got this conventional, end of story, go. So we started thinking maybe now's the time to start bringing the biopesticides and the conventional products together into an integrated solutions approach. So this is when we established our Integrated Solutions Initiative, coupling the best practices of biopesticides with conventional products in research and with the specific goal of getting registrations of one or both products. What we really were targeting were three very distinct areas. We called them pest problems without solutions, better known as the haystack. Let's try to find something that works, find that needle in the haystack, because nothing else is out there is showing any solutions for that one. The second aspect was resistance management, recognizing that, pests are developing this resistant, and you don't mix up the technologies out there, that very soon they won't be effective anymore, and then you have zero control. So if we could bring a bio into coupled with a conventional, we would then have some type of resistance management activities. And the third, and probably one that we've put a significant amount of effort in, is residue mitigation priorities. So for example, the United States does a lot of trading of commodities with the Pacific Rim countries, as well as the European Union. And each of these different areas have different classifications of what products they will allow in and what products they won't. In the case with certain products, you can't have any residues, or the legal residue level is very low. So the thought would be what if you reduced that product that the governments in these different parts of the world do not allow to very early season, and then you come in with a biopesticide towards the latter part of the season, you would still have multiple products there, which would provide some resistance management. You'd still would have good pest control, but the product that has concerns, the residues would be very limited at harvest, and then you could ship, whether it be Asia or Europe. So that was the thought behind it. Some of the early testing that showed this work, some pilot projects. We did whitefly on greenhouse tomatoes. We treated with conventional product Silvanto, and followed by potassium salts of fatty acids. And, lo and behold, these two products work pretty damn good together. The densities of the first instar nymphs were much lower than the water treated plots. We did it again alone with Silvanto with a different biopesticide, and it's really good at reducing densities of the second instar. Residue mitigation, what I'm specifically talking here, extending the pre-harvest interval from the last application to harvest to allow residues to decline below the MRL of export markets, and then maintain pest control with biopesticides at the end. So these are all some proof of concepts that we've been doing. It has worked well. We are in our third year of this now. We've had some successes to show. We've had some abilities to, really provide a bridge to the future when, materials and technologies like were expressed by the previous two speakers are available and at an economic level that growers can use it. But until that time, this will give the public a general feeling of what is out there is safe, and it's even safer than before. I'm just going to wrap up now just with one quick comment here, and I'd like to show this to a lot of my classes when I'm teaching. But this is it's a little old, but this is two specimen labels from, at this point, was Dow AgroSciences, and one was for Entrust EC, and the other one was a Success EC. I asked people to look very closely at this particular label and what are the differences, or identify the differences. And probably the most important difference that they easily see is what's circled on the left side, is that this is OMRI listed, which means is this particular product can be used in the organic market. The one on the right is not allowed to be used on the organic market. But you see the percentages of active ingredient and inert ingredients. A lot of cases, these are pretty identical. So what I like to share with my students, what I like to share with the public, that the lines between conventional agriculture and organic agriculture have become very blurred. They've become very gray as growers use more and better products in conventional agriculture, and organic growers using the same products in their products or in their production. There's not oftentimes a whole lot of difference there. So anyways, it's just something I like to always remind people of when we're talking about crop protection. So I want to thank you and remind everyone about food waste, and food is incredibly important, and we can all do our best to protecting our food. So I again appreciate the organization committee giving an opportunity to talk about IRR4 and our integrated solutions, and I appreciate your attention. Thank you.